Qualitative analysis. Salt analysis for anions, which are acidic radicals. For AS, levels chemistry, our focus is on certain ions which are carbonate ions, chloride ions, bromide ions, iodide ions, nitrate ions, nitrite ions, sulfate ions, and sulfite ions. For the anions, insoluble salts form a precipitate and are identified by the nature and color of their insoluble salts. Each of the anions has its reagent. Qualitative analysis. Qualitative analysis is a type of chemical analysis which is carried out on an unknown substance, a mixture or compound, to determine its composition. It is the determination of non-numerical information about a chemical species, reaction, etc. For example, observing a reaction creating gas that is bubbling out of solution or observing that a reaction results in a color change. Here, the constituent of the unknown sample is of interest and not the quantities or amounts. In inorganic samples, it's mostly called salt analysis, where two basic constituents are identified. These are metallic radicals, otherwise known as cations, and acidic radicals called anions. Salt analysis. A salt is a compound formed when the hydrogen ion in an acid is replaced by a metallic ion or ammonium ion. A salt has two components, cations, metallic or ammonium ions, and anions, acidic radicals. For AS levels, our focus is on certain ions which are carbonates ions, chloride ions, bromide ions, iodide ions, nitrate ions, nitrite ions, sulfate ions, and sulfite ions. For the anions, salts that in soluble forms a precipitate and are identified by their nature and color. Each of the anions has its own reagent. Salts analysis. Formation of precipitate. Precipitation is a type of chemical reaction in which insoluble solids are formed from a solution. The solid particles formed are called precipitates. Note the color and nature of the precipitate and then identify it by chemical tests or solubility. Creamy or jelly-like precipitates are described as being gelatinous in nature. Test for anions, chloride ions. Make a solution of the sample. Ensure that the solid dissolves completely to give a true solution and not a suspension. Test. To the solution, add dilute nitric acid and silver nitrate solution. Observation. White precipitate, silver chloride, is formed which darkens on exposure to light and is soluble in dilute aqueous ammonia solution. Result. Chloride ion is present. Test for anions, bromide ions. Make a solution of the sample and ensure that the solid dissolves completely to give a true solution and not a suspension. Test. To the solution, add dilute nitric acid and silver nitrate solution. Observation. Cream precipitate, silver bromide, is formed and is partially soluble in dilute aqueous ammonia solution and concentrated ammonia solution. Result. Bromide ion is present. Test for anions, iodide ions. Make a solution of the sample. Ensure that the solid dissolves completely to give a true solution and not a suspension. Test. To the solution, add dilute nitric acid and silver nitrate solution. Observation. Yellow precipitate, silver iodide, is formed and is insoluble in both dilute aqueous ammonia solution and concentrated ammonia solution. Result. Iodide ion is present. Test for anions, sulfate ions. Make a solution of the sample and ensure that the solid dissolves completely to give a true solution and not a suspension. Test. To the solution, add dilute nitric acid and barium nitrate solution or dilute hydrochloric acid and barium chloride solution. Observation. A white precipitate, barium sulfate, is formed. Result. Sulfate ion is present. Test for anions, sulfite ions. Make a solution of the sample and ensure that the solid dissolves completely to give a true solution and not a suspension. Test. To the solution, add dilute nitric acid and barium nitrate solution or dilute hydrochloric acid and barium chloride solution. Observation. White precipitate, barium sulfate, soluble in excess dilute acids. Sulfur dioxide liberated with dilute acid. Result. Sulfite ion is present. Test for anions, carbonate ions. Add dilute acid to the sample of solid compound. Test. Add dilute acid to the solid sample. Observation. If fizzing or effervescence occurs, test the gas with lime water. If the lime water turns milky, then carbon dioxide is produced. Result: carbonate ion is present.
Mr. Joe, your chemistry teacher. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, Geometry.